Hello, everyone. My name's Bill Say, and today I want to talk a little bit about a leadership secret sauce. um, First of all, I want to say a little bit about myself and about the community healing leadership training, which I've recently, I'll say, relaunched. Let's see, what can I say about myself? I am someone who lives in the San Francisco, California area in the US. Um, I'm trained in a modality called process work, the process work of Arnold Mindell. I teach, I facilitate, I offer trainings, and with this relaunching of the community healing and leadership training, a lot of my focus in the training is on how we can cultivate a deeper sense of community that's more inclusive, more fair, more fun, a few things, and how our leadership, individual and collective leadership, can enhance that effort. Let's see. Yeah, so maybe that's maybe that's enough. I was just before the broadcast started. There was something moving around in my terrarium that I just planted a few months ago, and I was so surprised. I want to try and show it to you. Maybe you can see it. Let's see. Here we go. Maybe it's going to be a little too hard to see. Ah, dear. Oh, there. Can you see that at the top? It's a little I don't know, it's a little slug or a little snail, but it's just moving around, and, I didn't know it was in there. It's like, "Oh my gosh, new life, new life." So I wanted to share that with you. So, um, amongst the many ways to develop our leadership, abilities and qualities, I wanna focus on, a really exciting part, what I called the other day, a secret sauce when I was thinking about it. And this secret sauce is what we in process work call, could call anyway, an X energy. Yeah. I'll draw this. Let's see. Here we go. I'm gonna use my blackboard in a little while. Call it X. Right. And because of the nature of our identities, individual and collective identities, and our awareness processes, it's really natural for us as individuals and groups to register some other energy, quality, perspective, style as other, as like not that's not me, that's not us, that's how they do it, that's how they are. And when this difference is really strong and disturbing, in process work, we would call this a disturbing, or we would call this an X energy. So, going to my notes here. Yeah, so it flies in the face of our identity. Let's say if I identify myself as a very quiet person, maybe a very loud person would be X for me, either momentarily or in some long-term way. If I identify, which I do, as a politically progressive person, maybe a very conservative person or view might strike me as X or disturbing. Yeah, et cetera, et cetera. Many examples. If I'm a really tidy person, maybe a very relatively messy person would be disturbing for me. Yeah. So in life, we seem to form these identities, for better and for worse. Oftentimes, well, I think for better and for worse. I'll leave it at that. Um, and then it seems that many of us have lifelong struggles with a particular, I'll call it a primal energy or quality that oftentimes we encounter early in our lives, say in childhood. And then some of us might see that this energy or quality actually turns out to be a part of who we are, either again individually or collectively, even though we didn't think so, we didn't necessarily like the thing, but we see that somehow it's also in us. Yeah. Now, when it comes to leadership and leadership development, there's of course many ways to develop. There's many ways to lead. There's many skills and qualities that the leader either possesses or can cultivate. But one of the things that I've noticed over the years working with different leaders, whether it's a leader in a family, yeah, a younger or an older person in a family system, in an organizational team or a community group, is that people start to cultivate different leadership qualities and traits, and they may even have a leadership identity of sorts. Like, person may see that they are kind of an understanding leader, or they're very powerful, directive leader, or a person is a very strategic leader, etc. So maybe there's some main quality or qualities that constitute a leadership identity of sorts. And then, not infrequently, there's a growing edge to particular energies or qualities that the leader could possess or could express. And sometimes this can be connected to this very thing, the X energy. So, the appearance of this disturbing X energy in our oftentimes comes about in our earliest childhood dreams or experiences that we then can look back and remember. It's like, oh gosh, when I look back in my childhood, I had this memory or I had this dream, and wow, it was really, really wild or really upsetting or scary or exciting, think different things. Um, but it's interesting how the X energy that shows up in the childhood dream or memory oftentimes stays with us, keeps appearing in different ways. Maybe not literally, but symbolically. If we think about, um, the dreamlike or the quality of dreams being that. Let's see. Let me slow down. I'm a little excited here. Is that it seems that in dreams, the language of dreams is symbolic, and if we think about our earliest childhood experience and then memory of it, sometimes can be seen as like a dreamlike thing because of its not literal but symbolic nature. So, a couple examples, hopefully that will help clarify what I'm speaking to. Is I had a student some years ago who had an earliest childhood experience where he's running really fast, and he wasn't judging the opening between a couple of trees, and so he got stuck right between the trees, and it was just kind of startling. He got a little bit hurt, got a little bit scared, was upset, and cried a bit. But then, interestingly enough, so this is that if you think about it, it's like, why that memory? Why does that memory stick out when he looked back as an adult? Well, interesting. So, not literally, it's not like he would go about in life and periodically run towards trees and they get stuck. Literally, I don't think that ever happened for him again. But this process of getting squeezed or squeezing was a recurring theme where sometimes, not infrequently, he felt overly restricted by others or by um, rules, right? And then, interestingly, he could also do that. He was also somebody who learned how to kind of contain and shape and limit um, both people and materials because he turned out to be an amazing craftsman who could take raw materials and kind of do this, sculpt them, limit them, shape them in a way that was really masterful. Yeah. And because he had employees, what was also interesting is that it seemed that he also had this ability to really hold people, contain people in a I think in a fair way that made him an effective leader. So that's one example of this early X energy. You could call it the confining the limits of the trees that could be seen symbolically as this kind of a process, this kind of limiting, shaping, maybe boundary setting process. Okay. Another example, someone who had repetitive dreams of fire, and just scary, like things burning, and a repetitive childhood nightmare. Yeah. And then you may ask, well, did this theme repeat in life? Not literally, not like the person kept on encountering actual fires, but the person is a woman I'm thinking of, um, uh, repeatedly have troubling relationships with really fiery people, and she herself considered herself to be more kind of a mild person, more of an even person, not so creative, not so wild, but occasionally she would get, I'll say, symbolically thinking here again, fiery. Yeah. She would have these bursts of creativity and then kind of get scared. or she would have these angry outbursts or passionate outbursts with friends or family members, and then wonder, oh my gosh, how do I work with that? Or what's coming out of me? And then starting to learn as a leader, because she was also a manager in work, how that fiery energy would sometimes come out and create relationship problems for her. But sometimes, especially when she started to learn how to believe in that energy, to see its usefulness, and learn how to moderate it so that it could come out, for example, in passion when trying to lead her members of her team at the company that she worked at. Another example. A last example is another student from the past who had an earliest childhood dream of a very big, a very, very deep hole in the earth, and it was a frightening childhood dream. And did he continue to find big holes in the earth? I don't think so. But when we explored the dream, this is what came up. It seems that this person who tended to live life a little bit superficially, get things done, make some money, be the best leader he could be, in his different groups, etc. But he also had a little bit um, uh, of a mixed interest and fear about going into the depths of things, including into his own depths. And once he, for example, he went to a meditation retreat and got to such a deep place inside of himself that he actually got very frightened. Yeah. But when working with this X energy of the deep hole in the earth, he started to connect to something that was really deep in himself. And he realized that even though he was a pretty good leader, he tended to lead from more superficial strategies and ways. And that when he started to experiment even a little bit with letting his leadership be informed by that depth that he was starting to connect to inside of himself, he would have really different and sometimes very significantly important, helpful breakthroughs in the different areas of his leadership. So, a few examples. Um, so let's see. I This is my first time working with Facebook Live, so it might be that no one's actually watching now, but it'll be there as a recorded thing. But let me pause for a moment, see if I can anticipate any questions that you might have at this point. Give me a moment. Mm. I think there's something that says, "Well, Bill, this is kind of interesting, but I'm having a little hard time like having it pulled together. So let me just kind of reframe, or let me frame again." So again, thinking about leadership in our different, you know, contexts and situations, whether it's family, organization, community life. Yes, there's many different important leadership skills and abilities and practices that can be very, very helpful. And so, one potential contribution to one's leadership may be represented by an X energy. And again, an X energy is a really, tends to be a disturbing quality, energy, perspective, or action. And that it seems, again, that we contact a main X energy early in life through an early experience, through an early dream, and that not literally, but symbolically, we might find that we continue to encounter that X energy and find it troubling until, okay, and this is arguable, all right, until we see that in some way the X energy, let's say this is me or this is we, it's kind of the identity, and we see this X as other. It's like, oh, that's not me, that's not us. But particularly in the cases where X energies keep coming to us in life, the same one, yeah, it comes up in early childhood, then again, symbolic again, in different relationships or different situations, or with teachers, or with bosses, with loved ones, etc. We might find that as well as being outside of us, and troublesome that maybe that X energy is part of a larger me or us. It's like, oh, I thought that was only in my terrible father or mother, or I thought that was only in that teacher who was such a dictator, or I thought that was only in my friend who was so loving and compassionate. But I thought, no, that's not me. But maybe through our exploration, we see that in some way the X is part of us. Now, here's the trick. With a disturbing X energy, many people would say, well, why would I want that to be part of me? Why would I want that to be part of my leadership? And that's, I think, the central question here. Why? So, because many X energies seem at least, um, you know, uh, uh, um, can be seen as hurtful, as negative, as destructive, as frightening. Yeah, terrible. What? No, let's keep that separate. Yes, very understandable. So here I have to bring in a little bit more process work theory. In the process work model, we look at three levels of reality. We call the first level CR, short for consensus reality, which is the level of reality of facts and figures and kind of easily recognizable power structures and fixed roles or institutional roles. So today is January 17th, and it's about 10:48 in the morning here in California. Those are consensus reality kind of things that most people could kind of consent to or agree to. Maybe sometimes with particular issues, there could be not necessarily agreement about the details, but about yes, there's problems with money in this institution, yeah, or our country's having economic problems. Most people say, yeah, yeah, we get that. The next level of reality is what we call dreamland. And this is a level of subjectivity and dreamlike phenomenon, nighttime dreams, emotions, and shared roles, roles that move around. So, yet consensus reality, like for example, the fixed or more institutional roles could be like a manager, a teacher, a president. Most people could say, "Oh, yeah, that's who that is. That's that role." But at Dreamland, for example, in a group setting, for example, someone might be the the unnamed leader. It doesn't have the title, doesn't have the position, but in some way has the spirit of the true leader that people look to. Or maybe it's the role of the scapegoat that everyone wants to blame for the group's problems. Maybe there's no consensus out that that's really happening, but that role seems to be a common kind of dreamlike, subjective or stylistic role that shows up in many groups, et cetera, et cetera. So dreamland, really important because there could be overlapping realities even in the same situation. Yes, we're here, for example, studying about leadership secret sauce, but then at the dreamland level, maybe someone's dreaming about a dictator like and the abuse that they experienced through life, etc. Yeah, it's not necessarily the content of what people might say and what people could hear or see in the videotape, but the dreaming aspect could be there. And then lastly, we have this level symbolized by the letter E, which stands for essence. So, arguably, again, this is a non consensual level, as is Dreamland. It's a non consensual level where things are kind of in a unitive kind of place or place of non duality. So, the experience that many people can relate to here is the experience of love, which is, could be seen as an essential experience. Um, or let's say you could say, yes, that person is the leader, but he kind of reminds me of this person from my past. And there's no consensus that the person is like your uncle or your grandfather. And then maybe when you think about it further, go, yeah, I think the essence of that person is they're just so warm. Maybe there's not no consensus on that person's quality being warmth, but maybe there is for you, or maybe for a number of people, it's like, yeah, if you really boil down their leadership style, he has a very warm, caring quality to him. And maybe that's not the consensus reality thing. Consensus reality, he's the manager, he's the leader of your team, etc. But maybe at this essence level, he's a warm person, for example. Okay, let me go further. So, back to this main question. So, why in the world would I want to explore or include in my life or include in my leadership an X energy that seems really terrible? Yeah, like aggression. Ugh. So, let me say a little bit about aggression from my own personal experience. One of the first times when I was working with trying to find the essence, what's at the root, so to speak, what's at the heart of a really troubling consensus reality problem, which was physical violence in my family. It's like, oh, it's frightening, terrible, hurtful. Yeah. And the X for me there was physical aggression. Ugh. And that's something that at consensus reality level could be videotaped in certain moments where somebody was striking out. Yeah, terrible. Yeah, and scary for me. But when I started to explore this energy, and actually explored it through movement, which is a really effective way to try to find the essence of something. So in this case, I started to explore a movement that was like that physical aggression. Like I didn't like making that movement, but there I did it. And after a while, I started to feel like, I feel a little bit bigger and stronger from making that movement. And then here's the thing. Here's the trick with, or here's the possibility with using movement work to find the essence of any quality, including an X energy, is starting to slow it down and feel and sense with your awareness what's at the root of this. So at the surface, it was like, ah, but then what's here in its essence? And this is subtle awareness work, so it can take a little bit, it can take several minutes, it could take longer than that. So I'm not going to take all that time because I remember quite clearly what it was. But when I started to explore and I started to use a more subtle awareness to feel what's at the root, what's at the center, what's at the very base, what's at the very essence of this. And what I felt at that time was, oh my gosh. And I couldn't have guessed. And that's why movement's so helpful rather than trying to interpret. What I could feel in that moment was, oh my gosh, I was surprised. Oh my gosh, what's at the essence of this for me, of this physical aggression, was complete commitment. And immediately I know, oh my gosh, I need that. Because here I was a person who had a very difficult time making commitments, to all kinds of things in life, relationship commitment, commitments with work. It was very difficult for me to be committed. And and that's when I realized, even though the surface level of physical aggression was something that I felt afraid of and I rejected, rightfully so, the essence of it, this full, complete commitment, was something I realized I needed. So that's one example of of taking a really troubling X energy that most people would want to just reject. Oh, I don't want to be around people that lie, or I don't want to be around people that are aggressive, or I don't want to be around people that are like dictators, or I don't want to be around people that are so needy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in small and large cases with X energies, it's arguable that you may have a degree, a version of that in you. And if you find the essence of even troubling qualities or energies, I know you may reject this, and you feel free to reject this as an idea or a practice. You might find that there's actually something in the root that is actually helpful and could potentially help you to feel more complete, especially if you've been very troubled around a particular X energy as it manifests in different ways or in different relationships or in different people in your life. So there you go. Now, wow, going on for a little while here. I have an invitation for you. If you'd like, at some point, you could save this for later for a time when you have maybe 20, 15, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour to have some quiet, get away from your telephone or your computer, or just get a little quiet if you can, and do this exercise where you can explore an X energy and how you could bring it into your leadership. Yeah, even in a modest way. All right. So, and if it's not right for you, be my guest. Don't do it. All right. But if you're interested, you might want to take a few steps here. Here, I'm going to walk you through it. So, first of all, take just a couple of breaths and just see if you can, for the moment, let things go. Let go, what you have to do today or tonight. Let go of, worries that you may have, if you can. And just take another breath or two. Let your mind relax a little bit if possible. And then bring to mind, if it's not too troubling to do so, yeah, because some people have very troubling, very disturbing early childhood memories or dreams. But if you're open to it, feel like you can manage it okay. Bring to mind and consider your earliest childhood memory or dream. And if a few pop up, just take the one that seems like it's like, yeah, that one. And then you can think about that memory, what happened, who was there, where did it occur? Was it a dream? You can say, yeah, was I in the dream? Who and what was in the dream and what was happening? Let's take a few moments to consider that. Notice the feeling that you had in that experience or in the dream. You were excited, you were scared, etc. And then, if it's right for you, go another step and consider who or what was most X. Yeah, that is, was there an energy? Was there a person? Was there some force that was really not you? Maybe even disturbing. For example, if you were dreaming about the sun really being really big, maybe the sun was the main the main X thing. Or if you were being chased by some bullies, those bullies might be the X energy. Or if you were being held by a loving parent, maybe that's the X, that loving parental figure, etc. Take a few moments to consider what was the furthest away from your young identity at the time. And it might be something in nature, like the ocean, like a big ocean wave. It could be a person who was like very troubling or very, very warming or loving, etc. What was most not you? And then see if you can kind of define what was the quality of that other. Was it loving? Was it um, was it something that just wiped everything away like a wave? Was it something really deep, etc.? See if you can define what was the main quality that was like, whoa, yeah. See if you can define that, maybe in a word or two or three. And then if you're ready, you can take another step if you like and use movement, just if you like, if it's right for you. Loosen your identity to your everyday identity just a little bit so that you can, for a few moments, make a movement that somehow expresses this X energy from your early childhood, from your early memory or dream. Maybe through your movement, you make this motion that's like the loving parent that you remember. Or maybe if it was a wave, an ocean wave that you had nightmares about, maybe you make this motion with your arms, etc. Make a little motion that somehow expresses that X energy. So you can feel that energy, that quality a little bit. Yeah, whatever that movement is that you can make. See if you can explore it. Let it become yours a little bit. You might be afraid of it, but see if you can be it a little bit. And now, here's the subtle part. If you've been able to find the full energy or quality with that, and that might be a little difficult, but if you can find it some, take that movement and slow it down. See if you can find the essence of it. So, for example, if someone was giving you a hug in your early childhood, you remember that hug, you might make this motion like that. But then through your awareness and feeling into that movement of the arms, you might feel it's like, oh, it's something that can embrace everything. Yeah. Or if you're making a movement like the ocean wave that you dreamt of, and you really try to feel what's at the essence of it, you might feel, for example, that it's like something that can completely take over and transform the whole situation, etc. See if you can slow down that movement and feel what's at the essence of it. Maybe there's something poking like a pin or a needle or a knife, and then you feel that motion of the knife, for example, and you feel the essence of, for example, oh, and you realize, oh, it's something that gets at the heart of things. Oh my gosh, that's what I sometimes do. Ah, and then that's the next part of the exercise. So if you're able to find even roughly the essence of this X energy, you might then ask, how does it sometimes appear? You might notice it coming out of yourself in certain moments, or you might notice it coming from other people, other leaders, other family members in moments. And then here's a question. If you consider the essence of this X energy, how might you bring a little bit of that, a degree of that, into your own leadership? Whether that's leadership in your family, in an organization, as a coworker, as a community member, etc. How can you bring a little bit of that essence, of that X energy into your leadership? Just sit with a question, and maybe something arises about how you could. Take a few moments with that. Then, if you like, take a few notes, and you may want to do a little, maybe a few very small experiments. Try it and notice what's that like. Try it, and maybe you get some feedback. Maybe some family members go, wow, that the way you led our family meeting today was really good, et cetera, et cetera. And you can notice, get a little feedback, notice for yourself. And if you like, you can make some comments. Any questions arise for you, or if you want to share what you experience or your experiments with this practice, you're very welcome. So good luck with it, and thanks for listening, and hope to see you again soon. Take good care.